Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Must I say it again? Because I don't think I heard you the first time. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Our scripture reading is from John chapter 20, from verse 1. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciple started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent and looked inside at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter, who was behind him, arrived and went into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the burial cloth that had been around Jesus' head. The cloth was folded up by itself, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went inside. He saw and believed, though they still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes. But Mary stood outside the tomb, crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. One of the things most people enjoy about special celebrations like Easter Sunday is to get together with family and friends. Sometimes we would clear out a room, borrow extra tables and chairs, and prepare enough food to literally feed the 5,000. For some people, special celebrations like today would provide the opportunity for us to light up the bright fires and everyone getting together outdoors, relaxing and enjoying themselves. Easter this year will be rather different for many, many families. Loved ones and friends sadly will not be showing up because of the lockdown. And unless you're one of those people who prepared well in advance for Easter, there might not even be an Easter egg to enjoy. But our story today is about a God who does show up. After the horrors of Good Friday, Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb, and she finds the tomb empty. And she runs to tell Peter and John, and they in turn run to the tomb. And possibly influenced by what Mary had said to them, they believe that the body had been stolen. And so they give up. They go home. Mary, however, remains at the tomb. And as a result of her remaining there, Jesus appears to her At first, she doesn't recognize him, but when he calls her by name, she realizes that it's not the gardener standing in front of her, but it's Jesus himself. For Peter and for John, the story had ended on Good Friday. But thankfully, we today know that Good Friday was not the end. On Easter Sunday, the risen Christ shows up. He shows up to transform a group of people who were lost, demoralized. He shows up to give those disciples new hope, new joy, new meaning and purpose in life. And friends, in the same way, he shows up to help us through our difficult times. Our God, you see, is a God who shows up. His promise was to never leave us, to never ever forsake us. So regardless of what we might be going through today, God shows up to encourage, to comfort. When he appeared to Mary in verse 15, he wanted to know why it was that she was crying. And just as he saw Mary's tears, friends, in the same way he sees your tears and my tears. He is aware of our concerns. He is aware of our fears, of our anxieties. Just as he showed up to transform Mary, he shows up to transform us as well. Our God is a God who refuses to leave us. We need to bear in mind that his disciples had betrayed him. His disciples had abandoned him. His disciples had deserted him. They had disappointed him. Yet that did not stop him from showing up. He appeared even to these weak, frightened men. So, beloved, regardless of who is not able to show up at your Easter celebrations today, remember, Christ shows up. In the midst of all that we might be dealing with right now, the fear, the worry, the anxieties, the grief, remember, Christ is with us. A Christian, you see, is someone for whom Christ has shown up. It might be difficult to celebrate today in the midst of all that is happening around us. But regardless of the circumstances, we must celebrate. We must celebrate the wonderful truth that Jesus Christ is risen. Regardless of all that we might be facing, we continue to live a life of exuberant faith and hope. Our faith, you see, is not a simplistic pie in the sky hope for a better tomorrow kind of faith. Our Easter celebrations are a statement of our faith. So let's celebrate. Let's rejoice that our God shows up in the midst of his people. As I was reflecting on past Easter Sunday messages, I remember one year asking the Emmanuel family to place a stone on their dining tables. And if anyone were to ask, why was there a stone on the table, to say that that stone was a reminder of the fact that the stone had been rolled away. The tomb was empty. Mark chapter 14 verse 4 says, but when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. And then one year, I remember I also asked people to place an empty biscuit box on the dining table. And that empty biscuit box was to serve as a reminder that on the first Easter morning, the tomb was empty. In thinking about this, I thought, what can I say, what can I ask Emmanuel family to place on their table, on their dining table this Easter Sunday? And I thought, as a result of loved ones not being able to show up to celebrate Easter with us, let's place on our dining tables this year a candle. That candle will be a reminder of a God who shows up. That candle will be a reminder of a God who shows up when we are in need. That candle will be a reminder of a God who shows up when we are grieving, when we are worried, when we are afraid, when we are alone. One who shows up to bring light into our darkness. Beloved, Christ did not just rise from the dead, but he showed up. He showed up to bring hope and to bring comfort to his disciples and to bring hope and comfort to you and to me as well. May his presence with us today comfort and encourage us in these somewhat different Easter celebrations. A blessed Easter to you all. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Amen.